Yes, David.
I'll describe to you. Right, come through here. We're going to describe what the people are missing. You see, this is our study. Now, let me see. For the likes of like Malcolm Clarke, he likes some theology and he likes to know real stuff.
Yeah.
Well, these are the historic. This is Calvin's works. I read Calvin when I can, and I find out from my own study.
Shine this light across onto it.
These works are typically the writings of Calvin, which he's left for this generation.
Down.
Oh yeah, that's it. I mean, God has raised up Calvin for the likes of the generation today, for the world's good today. I read the scriptures primarily. But John Bunyan is another great man. I've got the works of Bunyan, which I also read. Is another godly man that God raised up. I read and research and study. And all for us to read today. God has raised up these men like John Gill. He's got his works here. There's another man here. This is another great author. This is Tobias Crisp. This is a 15th century author. He goes by the name of the Antinomian, but this man is a real gospel minister, which is the same gospel I preach. Luther's works. This is Luther's works on. This is his book on Galatians, which is this year is the 500th year of Luther's birthday. He was born in 1483, and in November the 10th. Now Luther will be 500 years if he were allowed to live 500 years. Well, he is. His name is. He lives in heaven now. Calvin's Institute, which is another great treasure we have. These works here are John Owen. This is John Owen. And I've got the works of John Owen. He is another man that God has raised up. He was the chaplain to Oliver Cromwell, and Oliver Cromwell was a great Christian man and a parliamentarian. Cromwell was no atheist. Cromwell was a great Christian. He may have been it before he was called by grace, but he was a Christian, and he was a man that. And this man here, John Owen, was his chaplain.
Set up the first Parliament.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Cromwell.
Lessons I learned. The scripture is clear. We should study to show ourselves approved by God. And to this end I gave myself to reading the Bible and Christian books. I was thankful on two accounts: that I had adopted the use of the Authorised Version or King James Version of the Bible. So let me explain. Let me read from a section of my book. I'll read from chapter 15. At the Assemblies of God Church at Rickford's Hill, we had a representative from the Trinitarian Bible Society speak to us. Mr. Cyril Bryan confirmed his belief how important it was to use a good translation of the Bible. It was pointed out to me that modern versions often left out or changed texts of Scripture which clearly taught the deity of Christ. From that time I began to be cautious of new versions and was happy to stick with the Authorised Version. This was helpful because all the books that I read and began to read at that time had quoted from the Authorised Version and not modern translations. So, that was my reason for sticking with that version of the Bible. But this had another good effect, because at that time I was not impressed by Bible colleges, because I wanted to be taught by God. So let me read another section of my book which explains this. We're going to read chapter 15 under the heading, I did not believe in Bible colleges. When I first became a Christian, I did not believe in Bible colleges, thinking I did not want men to teach me. I wanted God to teach me. From what little I had seen of vicars and so-called trained men, I felt Bible colleges were of no use to anyone because these people were not often born again. So I dismissed the idea of Bible college for me. Nevertheless, I wanted to learn all about God and to speak His word in clarity and truth. This desire turned me to read the lives of men of God. I went from reading the Beano and the Dandy comics and James Bond books in prison to the Bible, then on to the writings of John Bunyan, Dr. John Gill, John Owen and Calvin in a matter of 2 or 3 years. It was when I met my wife-to-be that she encouraged me to train to be a teacher. That is why I attended the Technical Teacher Training College in Wolverhampton to learn how to teach technical subjects. But I had an ulterior motive, to learn how to teach the gospel. I took 1 year out from work and studied at Wolverhampton Polytechnic and finally graduated with a teaching certificate in education. This was awarded by Birmingham University in 1978. So, I went from teaching myself the gospel truths by reading all I could in books from the Reformation and onwards. However, all these writings were written in old-fashioned English, but thankfully, because I had learned the language of the authorised version, such study was not hard for me. Sadly, I found that people who adopted modern versions of the Bible were unable to read the good old books of importance that taught the doctrines of the Bible, so they missed out. My book is available. It was written for you, and also watch out for our punk rock opera called Borstal Boy by the Asylum Seekers, which tells my story as a punk rock musical.